Have you noticed the massive $100 discount on GoPro's newly released Mission 1 camera
Wait,
lately?
I've seen those ads popping up everywhere.
Right, like if you're anything like me, you probably saw that pop up in your feed and thought, oh nice, a friendly summer sale.
Yeah, exactly. You think maybe it's finally time to upgrade the old gear.
Exactly. But as it turns out, it is absolutely not a friendly summer sale.
Not even close.
No, according to recent financial filings from August 2026, it is actually a totally desperate play for operating cash.
Yeah, they are bleeding.
They really are. They are basically just trying to keep the lights on while the company finalizes the sale of the entire business.
It is a genuinely staggering situation to witness,
I
honestly.
think it's wild.
I mean, we are looking at a company that didn't just, participate in the action camera market. They essentially created the category from thin air.
Totally. They were the pioneers.
Right, and now they are standing on the brink of total collapse, making these borderline emergency retail moves just to maintain basic daily cash flow.
Which is exactly what we are getting into today. We've got a seriously fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive.
You really do.
Yeah. On one side, we have this hard-hitting financial news report from Gigazine, and that covers GoPro's Q2 2026 earnings in just brutal, unvarnished detail.
Very brutal.
Yeah. And then we're pairing that with a deeply passionate, highly critical op-ed written by a former hardcore GoPro power user.
Putting those two sources side by side provides such a complete picture.
It really does.
Because the financial data from Gigazine tells us the macro story, right? Like the cold, hard numbers of a company in free fall.
Right.
But then the op-ed gives us the micro level. It explores the emotional and the practical and highly technical reasons why the actual people who built this brand are abandoning shit.
Yeah, the power users. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how the absolute pioneer of the action camera market found itself in this position. Like, was it really just the inevitable rise of cheaper Chinese competitors eating their lunch, like everyone assumed?
That's what people think, yeah.
Right. Or did GoPro actually engineer its own demise through a series of internal failures? Okay, let's unpack this.
So to truly diagnose the disease here, we first need to look at the sheer size of the financial crater GoPro is currently standing in.
Let's hear the numbers.
The statistics from their August 10th, 2026 Q2 report paint a very, very grim reality.
Oh,
Yeah, they reported a $51 million quarterly loss.
wow, 51 million.
Exactly. And for our international listeners, that translates to roughly 8.1 billion yen. Just gone.
That is a massive hit.
It is. And it gets worse. Their total cash reserves have dwindled down to just $27.3 million.
Wait, $27.3 million?
Yep.
For a global hardware manufacturing
I
company.
know, it sounds crazy.
That feels like checking your bank account and finding out you only have enough to cover a single grocery run.
That is a perfect analogy.
You're like, how does a company with global distribution even operate on that little cash?
Well, the short answer is they barely do.
Wow.
In the hardware business, you know this, you need massive amounts of working capital, right, for factories and stuff.
Exactly. You have to pay overseas factories for components, handle global logistics, fund R&D for the next cycle, and manage global payroll.
Yeah, that adds up fast.
So having under 30 million in cash means you are literally living hand to mouth.
Yeah.
And their sales volume completely reflects that crisis.
How bad was the drop?
Camera shipments plummeted 38% year over year.
38%.
Yeah, dropping down to just 291,000 units globally.
That is wow.
And consequently, revenue dropped 31% to $105 million. And all of this follows a brutal April where they laid off 145 people,
Oh, man.
which is 23% of their entire workforce.
Over 1/5 of the company just gone in a single month.
It's gone.
And CEO Nick Woodman has actually confirmed publicly that the process of selling the company is in its later stages.
Right, they are looking for a lifeline.
And they need it yesterday. But what fascinates me is how GoPro is spinning this. Like, what is their official excuse for this collapse?
Well, the official narrative from GoPro leadership is entirely focused on external factors. Of course it is.
Right. They're pointing the finger at sluggish general consumer sales, intense competition from rivals like DJI and Insta360. And
Let me guess, supply chain stuff?
you guessed it, a massive sudden spike in memory costs. According to their filings, in late March of 2026, The cost of memory components spiked anywhere from 80 to 115%.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because suppliers dramatically cut production.
Okay, I have to push back on that official narrative then.
Go for it.
Because blaming the components market feels like a ship's captain blaming the rain for his boat sinking when there is literally a giant gaping hole in the hull.
That's very true.
Right, yeah. Memory costs spiked. But those costs spiked for everyone.
Exactly, it's a global market.
Yeah, and according to our sources, the wider digital camera market is actually doing just fine.
They are.
Companies like Canon, Sony, and Fujifilm are largely healthy right now. You can't just blame the memory supply chain when your direct competitors are weathering the exact same storm without taking on water.
That is a critical distinction to make. The broader market data simply does not support GoPro's excuse that this is just a universally tough time to sell a camera.
Exactly.
And if you dig into the sources, there's a fascinating discrepancy highlighted by a Sandy analysis that proves your point about that hole in the hole.
Oh, what did they find?
When you isolate GoPro's sales channels, their direct website sales, meaning purchases made directly on GoPro.com, those actually grew by 13%.
Okay, so people are still buying online.
Right. But their retail sales, the cameras sold in physical stores like Best Buy or REI, those crashed by a staggering 48%.
Wait, 48%. They lost half the retail volume.
Almost exactly half.
How does the CFO even attempt to explain a 48% drop in physical stores?
Well, GoPro's CFO, Brian Tratt, claimed on an earnings call that this massive drop is just a logistical hiccup.
Hiccup, right? Yeah.
He stated that their new cameras are experiencing a slow rollout to stores and just haven't fully hit the distribution network yet.
That sounds suspiciously convenient.
It does. And the analysts at Cinedee suggest a much darker reality for the brand. Basically, retailers are actively losing money.
Because shelf space is incredibly expensive.
Precisely. Big box retailers analyze their profit per square foot mercilessly.
Oh yeah, they track every inch.
Right. They aren't stocking up on GoPros because the internal data tells them the product will just sit there gathering dust. Retailers are likely reallocating that premium shelf space to brands that actually move units.
Makes total sense from a business standpoint.
It does, and this raises an important question. If the wider camera market is healthy and competitors are thriving, what exactly did GoPro do to alienate its massive retail partners and its most loyal users?
That is the multi-million-dollar question right there.
Okay.
Because if the overarching market is fine, the problem has to lie with the product itself.
Exactly.
To figure out why sales are tanking, we have to step out of the boardroom and get out into the field. This is where that scathing op-ed from the former brand ambassador becomes so crucial.
Yes, the op-ed.
The passion and, frankly, the heartbreak in this piece is just so palpable.
It really is. It reads less like a tech review and more like an autopsy written by a grieving family member.
Seriously. And the author highlights this incredible concept that I honestly hadn't even considered.
Oh, the two types of failures.
Yes. They argue that GoPro's downfall isn't just about their massive, highly publicized blunders. Like, we all remember the Karma drone, right?
Oh, man, the Karma drone.
They literally fell out of the sky.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
But the author calls expensive missteps, like the Karma drone failures of commission, meaning things the company actively designed poorly. The real killer, according to the op-ed, are GoPro's failures of omission. The foundational things they just neglected for years, namely basic, boring system stability.
Yes. And the author zeroes in on one specific persistent nightmare that demonstrates this perfectly. The USB port.
Ugh, the USB port.
Right. Consider who the power users actually are. They are the extreme athletes, the high-end influencers, the early adopters.
People pushing the gear to the limit.
Exactly. They act as GoPro's unofficial marketing department out in the wild.
Totally.
And to do their jobs, they rely heavily on that USB port for external microphones, like GoPro's own Media Mod, or for extended batteries, like the official Volta Grip.
Right.
But the op-ed reveals that using these official first-party accessories frequently leads to total catastrophic system crashes.
And I think we need to explain why that is so utterly unacceptable.
Please do.
Like, we aren't talking about plugging in some cheap knockoff cable from the gas station here.
No, not at all.
These are accessories designed, branded, and sold by GoPro, intend to work perfectly with their own cameras.
Yeah.
Yet there is this wildly specific anecdote in the op-ed that just blew my mind regarding this exact issue.
You're talking about the 100-hour test.
Yes, the 100-hour test. So the user was testing a third-party remote control app they were developing for a shoot.
Okay.
And to test stability, They ran a GoPro on continuous wall power for 100 hours.
Seems like a reasonable stress test.
Right. But during this highly controlled test, the camera repeatedly entered this bizarre state where it completely locked up.
Just totally froze.
Yeah, we're talking a massive firmware freeze. It refused all remote commands. It wouldn't respond to button presses.
Wow.
It was completely dead to the world until the user walked over and physically ripped the battery out to force a hard reset.
Let's consider the engineering implications of that for a moment.
Yeah, break that down for us.
Well, when you plug a device into external power, the internal processor suddenly has to manage multiple complex tasks simultaneously.
Right.
It's handling charging logic, it's routing data from external microphones, and it's trying to encode 5K video files all at once.
That's a heavy load.
It is. What that 100-hour test reveals is deep-seated software debt. GoPro's firmware simply panics under the load.
Just gives up.
Pretty much. And having to physically pull a battery to reset a device completely defeats the entire purpose of setting up remote operation in the first place.
Exactly. And because of this persistent firmware instability, the author lists these wild, unwritten rules that power users have just accepted as their daily reality if they want to use a GoPro professionally.
Oh, those rules were eye-opening.
They sound absurd for a premium device. Things like you must build your lighting and frame rate presets before you shoot.
Because you can't touch it later.
Right, because you should never try to change settings while the camera is actively rolling.
Wow.
Always charge the battery externally. And essentially, just treat the entire system like it's made of fragile glass.
Which is ironic.
Yeah, like
Good.
avoid USB gear entirely if you want the camera to actually survive a paid shoot.
The disconnect between the marketing and the reality there is striking.
Isn't an action camera supposed to be rugged on the inside too?
You would think so.
We expect a GoPro to survive jumping out of an airplane or getting tossed around in massive 20-foot surf. The marketing literally sells invincibility.
It does.
It is wild to me that a camera built with an exterior tough enough to survive a literal avalanche can't even survive being plugged into a standard wall outlet in a temperature-controlled living room.
It's completely backward.
It's built like a tank on the outside, but its software is incredibly fragile on the inside.
And that internal fragility forces the core users, the very people whose incredible footage sells these cameras to the masses, to constantly live in fear of their gear failing during a crucial, unrepeatable moment.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
But according to the op-ed, the final straw wasn't even the USB crashes.
Oh, right. It was the Hero 12.
Yes. It was a conscious, deliberate design choice introduced on the Hero 12, the removal of the GPS module.
Oh, this part made the author absolutely furious.
I can see why.
Because GoPro's official PR claimed they removed the GPS to save battery life and reduce heat generation. But the writer calls absolute nonsense on that excuse, and frankly, so do I.
Yeah, the physics just don't support GoPro's claim there.
Not at all.
Consider the smartwatch you might be wearing right now. It has a GPS module tracking your every step, and it generates virtually zero noticeable heat while running on a battery a fraction of the size of a GoPro's.
Exactly.
If GoPro engineers were genuinely worried about thermal load, the software solution is simple. Ship the camera with the GPS turned off by default and allow the veteran users to toggle it on in the settings when they need it.
But they didn't offer a software toggle.
Nope.
They physically ripped the hardware out of the camera.
They did, and the author points out that this was clearly a deceptive excuse to save on BMO costs, the bill of materials.
Okay, let's break down what that means for a company that is bleeding cash.
Certainly. So the bill of materials is the exact cost of every tiny physical component required to build a device.
Right.
When a CFO looks at a spreadsheet and sees they are losing $51 million a quarter, they look for pennies to pinch.
Anywhere they can.
Exactly. If a GPS chip costs $2 and you plan to manufacture 2 million cameras, removing that chip instantly saves you $4 million.
Oh, wow, so it's just pure math.
It makes the spreadsheet look better for that specific quarter, but it is a short-term financial band-aid disguised as an engineering improvement.
And it comes at the massive cost of long-term brand trust.
Definitely.
By removing telemetry data like the ability to record your speed, your altitude, your routing, and overlay those cool graphics onto your video GoPro, stripped away the very essence of what makes an action camera an action camera.
They really did.
Like, if you are a downhill mountain biker or a skydiver, proving you hit 50 miles per hour is half the fun of sharing the video.
Without that, it severed the connection with the extreme sports community.
Which brings up a massive overarching question.
What's that?
Why? Why did GoPro start stripping away core action features like GPS to save a few bucks? And why did they spend years ignoring the professional input and output stability?
Well, because as the sources reveal, somewhere along the line, the company completely forgot who their target audience was.
They really did.
They suffered a catastrophic identity crisis.
Let's talk about the infamous overheating issue now.
Yeah.
Because if you stop someone on the street and ask what they know about GoPros, it's usually two things.
Right.
They shoot that cool wide-angle fisheye look, and they always overheat.
Always. It is universally the most common complaint among casual consumers.
Yep.
But the op-ed presents a brilliant, counterintuitive argument here. The overheating isn't actually a hardware flaw.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it is a marketing flaw.
Okay, a marketing flaw. Explain how a camera melting down on my kitchen counter is a marketing problem.
It comes down to the physics of processing power versus thermal management.
Okay.
If you pack a tiny, sealed, waterproof box with a high-end processor capable of encoding 4K or 5K video, it is going to generate an immense amount of heat.
Right, that's just physics.
Any camera with those specifications, confined to that small of a footprint, will get hot. There is no internal fan. But originally, GoPros were designed exclusively for extreme sports.
Right, they were built for motion.
Exactly. If you attach that tiny hot box to a motorcycle helmet or the nose of a surfboard, it is being constantly actively cooled by 60-mile-per-hour winds or rushing ice-cold water.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. In its natural intended habitat, a GoPro almost never overheats because the environment itself acts as the cooling system.
I love the analogy that comes to mind here. It's like selling a custom-tuned Formula One race car to a suburban dad for his morning commute to the grocery store.
Yes.
Of course the engine is going to overheat in stop-and-go traffic. The car wasn't built for a leisurely pace, and the GoPro wasn't designed for a slow, windless walk through a park.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. But the op-ed author points out that starting around the release of the Hero 7, GoPro experienced what they cleverly call the vlog curse.
The vlog curse.
Yeah. GoPro executives saw the massive rise of influencers, TikTokers, and casual YouTubers, and they tried to pivot the brand to capture that massive audience.
Chasing the trend.
Exactly. They took this hardcore, thermally demanding extreme sports tool, and they started explicitly marketing it to casual vloggers. Their commercials showed people using it for walking around a mall, sitting in a coffee shop, or filming their kids in a static living room.
Think about how you use your own phone camera. You probably just want to pull it out of your pocket, hit record, and have the video look vibrant and perfectly stabilized immediately so you can just post it.
Right, instantly.
You don't want to worry about thermal limits or spend 3 hours color grading flat footage from a family vacation. That desire for simplicity is the exact trap GoPro fell into.
And that pivot created a massive, glaring opening for their competitors.
Like DJI.
Exactly. Brands like DJI and Insta360 looked at that booming consumer vlogging market and built entire software ecosystems specifically optimized for them.
Smart.
They tuned their image pipeline so that the footage is instantly processed, heavily stabilized, and looks perfectly saturated on a smartphone screen with absolutely zero effort from the user. They won the consumer market by relentlessly focusing on frictionless ease of use.
While DJI was making things easy, GoPro was basically trying to have its cake and eat it too.
Yes, they were.
They tried to cram the high-end, uncompressed professional needs of a cinematic filmmaker and the frictionless needs of a casual vlogger into the exact same tiny box.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we see the core strategic failure that ultimately brought GoPro to the brink of collapse.
Which was?
They attempted to make a one-size-fits-all product in a market that demanded specialization. They really should have split their product line entirely.
You mean they should have built two distinct cameras?
Precisely. They needed one uncompromising, ultra-stable pro line.
For the hardcore users.
Right, a camera with flawless USB stability, robust GPS, and massive data rates, built specifically for Red Bull athletes and professional production crews who actually know how to manage complex settings and handle massive files.
Makes total sense.
And alongside that, they needed a completely separate, highly user-friendly consumer line. Perhaps physically larger to dissipate heat without wind, that doesn't overheat at room temperature and connects flawlessly to an iPhone app.
Right.
By trying to please everyone with a single device, they ended up with a compromised tool that professionals couldn't trust and consumers found too difficult and frustrating to use.
They basically alienated the hardcore fans who built the brand's legacy and simultaneously failed to fully capture the massive new casual audience they were desperately chasing.
Exactly.
Which brings us to today, a $51 million quarterly loss, laying off a quarter of the staff, and a desperate search for a corporate buyer.
It's sad.
It is. I want you, the listener, to think about your own favorite tools or software platforms. Like, how many times have you seen a product you absolutely love get bloated, buggy, or ruined entirely because the company started chasing a broader audience at the expense of the core features that made the product great in the first place?
It happens so often.
GoPro's tragic trajectory really is a masterclass in this exact phenomenon.
It is a painful billion-dollar lesson in the importance of brand identity, and a stark reminder of the consequences of ignoring your foundational engineering fundamentals just to appease a marketing pivot.
So, what does this all mean for you? I think it's a powerful reminder that in an era of rapid feature expansion, where every new gadget or app promises to do 50 new things, using AI or whatever the current buzzword is, sometimes the absolute most valuable feature a company can offer is just basic, boring reliability.
Just making it work.
Exactly. Don't worry about stripping out GPS to save $1. Just make sure the USB port actually works when I plug it in.
A reliable tool is always better than a broken toy. And that leaves us with one final, quite provocative thought regarding this pending sale of the company.
Okay, what is it?
Well, with the buyout in its final stages, according to the CEO, we have to ask, what is the buyer actually purchasing?
Right.
Are they acquiring GoPro because they possess the massive engineering resources required to finally fix these deep-seated hardware and software debt issues, hoping to restore the legacy to what it once was?
That would be the dream.
Or, in a few years, will the iconic, trailblazing GoPro name just be a licensed logo slapped onto the back of generic, cheap smartphone accessories sold at airport kiosks?
Wow. From being the ultimate, undeniable symbol of extreme sports and human achievement to potentially becoming just another cheap piece of plastic.
It's a real possibility.
We'll have to see if the new owners can finally fix the hole in the hull, or if this iconic ship is finally going down for good.